Hello, I'm your host, Wayne Brown, and welcome to the ET Project. We're delighted to be delivering this podcast for executive talent all over the world, whom we're affectionately referring to as Team ET. Today, it's the end of another quarter. Can you believe Q2 of 2024? This not only means we're officially at the halfway point of the year, but also that it's my turn once again to fly solo as we review the previous 12 guests who have graciously shared their time as well as their insights with us in the past 3 months, from April through to June. And as is always the case when I'm doing these recaps, I'm sitting in my studio here in Shanghai and reflecting very briefly on the journey with each guest. By the way, today, this is episode 107, and we've had 12 amazing leaders join us. And therefore, as we do every 13th week of the quarter, today we're going to look back over our lineup and touch on the highlights of those conversations. All right, so let's jump in and get started. And by now, you're probably familiar with our approach. We chunk our 12 episodes into 4 groups of 3 weeks at a time. Yep, 3 batches, or 4 batches, in fact, of 3 guests per group. And thanks to our brilliant marketing team, we're able to incorporate each of the promotional intros, the videos that we show, to save you having to listen to my wonderfully crafted radio-friendly voice the entire time. And I imagine you're very happy about that. So here we go with our first 3 guests, Dr. Benah Parker, Mr. Colin Corby, as well as Miss Sue Firth. So let's trip back to the beginning of April, where we first met with Dr. Parker. And if you recall, this was my first trip to Phoenix, Arizona, in the United States. So I was a little bit excited about that fact. And Dr. Parker is a social psychologist. She's an executive coach as well as a business consultant. And she helps high-performing leaders identify their blind spots and uncover what's missing so that they can transform their life as well as their career to feel aligned with their own goals, having boundaries and balance to get their life back. So Benah works with entrepreneurs and leaders from national nonprofits through to Fortune 500 companies to move the needle on desired outcomes. Whether their goal is organizational transformation, professional growth, or personal development, she integrates applied psychology to help leaders live a life that's aligned with their dreams. It's a great way to start off the quarter. And here is a taste of the conversation between Dr. Parker and me. So please have a listen or watch the video. In preparing for this conversation, I was trying to think myself, how would I define motivation? And we could take so many tangents, I guess, right? Enthusiasm was one word that comes to mind. So my level of enthusiasm for doing something, but I think that's still too shallow, right? So, excuse me. You mentioned internal, external, or the words intrinsic, extrinsic. They came out of that self-determination theory from memory around about the mid-80s, 90s. What's the difference? Let's jump into from that end of the pool. What's the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic, firstly? And then to the motivations, the difference between an intrinsic motivator and an extrinsic.
Sure. So the intrinsic and extrinsic, when I was teaching this, I always say, well, we can think of it as internal and external because people have a better understanding of that. But with intrinsic, it's going to be something that is inside you, something core to you, again, often unconscious, that is guiding you forward. Whereas extrinsic, that is when the external forces around you, whether it's the community you're in, your family, the organization, larger society, all of those are going to be external and extrinsic motivators, extrinsic forces. So everything we consume from social media, from regular media, from the conversations we have, the stories we read, the things we believe, those external things can all be external motivators. The intrinsic ones are the ones that we have internalized. They have become some part of our self-identity, our core beliefs and values of who we are. Those are typically going to be the internal drivers and motivators.
All right, so next up, we're heading over to the UK and we're going to meet with our guest, Mr. Colin Corby, CEO and founder of Technology Wellbeing Limited and creator of the Digital Detox Coach, a technologist, TEDx speaker, digital wellbeing coach, and endurance athlete. Actually, we speak a lot about that during this conversation. Now I read that and I remember. He helps a lot of us through this creation of the Digital Detox Coach, which he founded back in 2018 to help busy individuals as well as successful organizations achieve a healthier, more sustainable and productive relationship with technology through transformative change. Colin has over 30 years experience in leading technology companies, and he holds a postgraduate diploma in technology management, a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics, and is a member of the Institution of I'll say that again. He's a member of the Institution of Engineering and Technology, as well as the International Coaching Federation. Digital detoxing is an increasingly important topic that we need to be thinking about and working through. So please listen and watch this short extract of the conversation between Colin and myself. Is there any recommended time juncture between when you want to be asleep and when you should put the phone away, or like, is that too prescriptive, or should you just try and leave it outside the bedroom?
So there are two things. One is to stop looking at your phone, and I haven't seen any research to say it should be 30 minutes or 1 hour or 1.5 hours. But putting your phone and charging it in another room creates that physical barrier. You know, it's a lot of effort to get up in the night and go to another room to pick up your phone. Not to say that you wouldn't do that, but it's a physical barrier. But then you've got the problem is, yeah, but I need the alarm. Because one of the things our smartphones do so well is they encapsulate all the things we need to do in life, you know, from our bank, our contacts and all those sorts of things. And I looked at that problem and I thought, well, okay, let's go back to an alarm clock. But actually, I've got one of these light alarm clocks where the light slowly increases, and then the alarm is, you know, can be waves, it can be birds and all the rest of it. I love it. I think it's brilliant. So yeah, so if you're not going to use it as alarm, you're gonna have to put it away. But we know the presence of a phone is really pulls on us, because go to a restaurant nowadays, how many times do you see a couple together looking at their phones?
Next, we're going to recall our conversation with Miss Sue Firth, and we did a little cyber hopping across to London for this recording. Sue is a business psychologist and a performance coach specializing in stress, resilience, and change, where she advises and consults with business and top executives. With Sue's formal training in psychology, where she holds both a Bachelor of Science and a master's degree, coupled with 30 years of experience, her tips and tools support the way an executive approaches life as well as business. Sue is an Associate Fellow of the British Psychological Society and a member of the Health Professionals Council. And she's currently running a private practice in South Molton Street in London, offering also in-person as well as online mentoring with customers both in the UK as well as abroad. And you'll find that our conversation bounced around a number of really important mental health topics. So please have a look as well as a listen to our video and our audio. I mentioned Vistage, and I'm guessing there's a lot of people probably listening who may not be familiar with Vistage, although it could be very relevant for them. So would you mind sort of doing a brief introduction on what this organisation is, what
No, with pleasure. Yeah, it's a worldwide organization, actually, and it's a member-based organization. So you join as a person, but essentially under the guise of your business. And what you do is attend on a monthly basis to somebody who runs a group. So they are referred to as a chair. They're male or female, but they run a group. And that group is predominantly 10 people plus. So the intellectual property in that room is very significant for you. What that enables you to do is bring problems or issues or experiences that you've got, something that's a dilemma, you've recruited somebody, you feel that you've got a question mark over, or you think someone's got more potential than they're using, or whatever it is. And obviously difficult clients and customer situations. And you can share those. So it's split into two parts in the day. In the morning, there is usually a speaker of incredible value.
All right, well, that rounds out our first trio. And before we jump headlong into our next guest block, we're going to pause here for a short commercial. Did you know that Coaching for Companies offers business consulting for medium and small size startups across the industrial sectors, most specifically engineering, manufacturing, and construction? We leverage our proven 4X growth formula to assist company leaders to identify the gaps, as well as to put strategies in place that help their business performance explode. Head over to our website and complete the free performance health check. And if you choose to, contact us for a free no obligation chat, or you can book in a call and one of our team will be very happy to support you. All right, so we're back live and we're moving into the next three guests that joined us on the show somewhere towards the end of April, moving into May in this year, 2024. And the three guests that we're talking about, Mr. Callum Laing, Miss Erin, Andrea Craske, and Mr. Dale Gauthreaux. So starting with episode 98, let's have a look. All right, so there you can see it, detoxing board membership, insider tips and strategies. This episode, we're in Singapore and we catch up with the award-winning serial entrepreneur who loves talking about the intersection of small business and investing. Is our guest, Mr. Callum Laing, a New Zealander, born in New Zealand. We have a little bit of fun with that reality at the beginning of this podcast, I recall. Educated in Cambridge, professionally, he understands how to establish and grow business entrepreneurs and enterprises on a global basis. Callum is an experienced public presenter who speaks at events around the globe. He's regularly featured on broadcast as well as in print media. Having taken multiple companies public, he's closed nearly 100 M&A transactions and personally helped scores of individuals to get board seats. And he's now launching his fourth book, Boardroom Blueprint, Boost Your Career with a Board Seat in 60 Days. I took that test. I achieved mine within the first week. So thank you, Colin, much appreciated. If you have an interest in boardrooms and the whole mystique around venture capitalism, then have a listen to this short dialogue between Callum and I. You've written a great book. It's your fourth book, actually, if I'm correct, and it releases this month in April. So it's called Boardroom Blueprint, Boost Your Career with a Board Seat in 60 Days. And it's essentially what we're going to be focusing our conversation on today. However, before we do that, we were talking a little bit about your background before we hit record, but I wonder if we could get some of your history, where you hail from, and any of the key milestones that you can recall, at least during your career, that perhaps led you to where you are today.
Yeah, for sure. So look, Kiwi originally, but grew up mainly in the UK, and then I've been in Asia for the past 22-23 years. And I've been an entrepreneur since late 90s. So I set up my first company was a recruitment company at the height of the dot-com boom, selling IP engineers into telco businesses around Europe, which was incredibly profitable. And of course, at the ripe old age of 23, I thought I was a genius and very clever for doing that. And then the bubble burst and turned out I wasn't nearly as clever as I thought I was. But at that point, I was kind of broken, having been through the entrepreneurial journey. I couldn't really go back. And so I've just been an entrepreneur ever since. And then in the last 10 years, really focused on helping small businesses to access the capital markets. So you've kind of got trillions of dollars of money sloshing around in capital markets and other commodities and things. And then you've got half the world's economy, which is locked up in small business. So 50% of global GDP is in small businesses. And there's no financial product to allow that money to connect with the small businesses, which seems like a bit of an oversight.
From Callum, we move on to connect with Miss Erin Andrea Craske in London. And Miss Craske is an award-winning strategist with a 20-year career culminating as global head of consumer brands. With expertise in strategic development, profitability, leadership, and communication, she's an ICF certified business and leadership success coach. Leveraging 16 years of leadership, she empowers contribution-driven businesses to succeed on their own terms and build a profitable business while amplifying a ripple effect of goodness. There's an endless flow of items that Erin and I share related to the work she's doing, including the great book that she's written called From Profit to Purpose. I see it as the alchemy, if you like, the A to Z, a practical strategy guide that encompasses insights on building self-selling brands, achieving business longevity, thriving in saturated markets, and avoiding strategic pitfalls. Here's a taste of what Erin and I had to speak about. And what was the transition into where you are now in coaching, business advisory? How did you make that transition?
It wasn't conscious. It wasn't something that I chose. And there's one learning that I always share, and I really want your listeners to pay attention. You know, the worst place you can be in your life when you don't know what you want and you don't know where you're heading. It's very easy for all of us to know what we don't want. Yeah. That, you know, as a breeze, but knowing what we want. I mean, seriously, not what we want because somebody told us that this is what we should want, but what we want deep inside. And having this courage to accept it and move this direction and creating this destination you move towards, that is not, I mean, not many people actually pay attention to it or take it slow to discover it. And I appear to be in a situation where I was totally aimless.
All right, well, rounding out our second group, as well as taking us to the halfway mark, is our guest from across the waters in Atlanta of the United States, none other than my good friend, Mr. Dale Gauthreaux. This is a really special episode for several reasons. Firstly, it marked our 100th episode of the ET Project podcast, and I was extremely happy to have the chance of spending the time chatting with Dale. Who is Dale, aside from being a past colleague, friend, and someone that I like to think of that sits on my own personal board of directors? You'll understand more about that if you listen to our conversation. But additionally, Dale specializes in helping leaders and organizations address performance and engagement challenges. Through consulting, training, and coaching, Dale helps leaders develop the capacity and the capability to accomplish their organization's goals. A student of organizational culture and effectiveness, Dale brings over 30 years of experience in organizational effectiveness, leadership development, strategy, and culture, as well as transformation. His experiences span manufacturing, sales, healthcare, financial services, technology, education, and non-profit organizations. And during this conversation, we dive into a number of really important questions related to leadership. So please have a listen to the excerpt from our discussion?
People like to share their experience and learning. And
Yeah.
like I said, I don't tell them they're on my board, because then I would need to, fire them at some point, and that's not going to be good. So instead, I just try to make a collegial relationship where I can learn and grow and make myself vulnerable so that they can speak into my life as well.
It's such an important point. I also follow the same path throughout my career, and on average, we talk about in this program, in actual fact, on average, I've had maybe 4 people around me, whether you call them accountability partners or collaboration partners or part of your personal board of directors. That it's such a valuable association and resource. Life is too challenging to go through by yourself, right? You need other people around you that can be there when you need a shoulder, or that can be there to offer their insights and their input. All right, team, time for another short commercial. At Coaching for Companies, we offer 3 core services, and as we mentioned previously, we support our small to medium-sized businesses in the industrial sector through our performance consultation. Another service that we offer is the ET Development Division. This is where the ET project sits and offers 4 free services. The first of which is right here, our weekly podcasts. Then we also have our monthly live broadcasts, our quarterly masterclasses, and finally our quarterly challenges. In parallel to the ET project is the ET Academy. Now, this is for both B2B and B2C. It's our formal side, if you like, of our executive skills development. And here we offer short form, let's say, virtual masterminds, as well as tiered flagship long duration development programs that run from between 10 weeks to 12 months. Plus, sitting at the pinnacle of the Academy are our elite destination masterminds conducted in an exotic location somewhere in the globe 3 times a year. If you'd like to learn more, then please visit our website at coachingforcompanies.com, send us a query or book in a call, and we're here to support you. All right, team, we're back and we're ready to look at Group 3. We have 3 more really interesting guests joining us, Miss Julie Williamson, Mr. Utkarsh Narang, and Miss Juliette Denny. So let's start with Juliette Williamson and episode 101. And for this, we're back in Denver, Colorado. And based on just how many of our guests seem to be located and coming from this city, I'm starting to get a sense for why this region is just so popular. Julie is the managing partner of the Craske Group. In addition to being co-owner of this organization, Julie is an experienced keynote speaker. I better bring up Julie's picture so you can see who she is and what she looks like and what the episode was called. But you can see that she's an experienced public speaker and a published author. You can check out her book on Amazon, which is titled Matter: Move Beyond the Competition, Create More Value, and Become the Obvious Choice. Julie is a leading voice in how alignment can transform leaders as well as organizations, and she's worked around the world with some of the largest companies, helping them set and execute on strategy and transformation. Look, I personally found this conversation particularly insightful, and I even wrote a short post on the topic of executive alignment soon after our conversation. So please take the time, listen to this short extract from our discussion, and if you're interested, go back and listen to the whole conversation. You have a really nice model that looks at, even once you get to that level of agreement, there's still a gap per se, or potentially, between agreement and alignment. And I love this model, and I wonder if you could go a little bit deeper on, what is the gap and what's the pitfalls that exist as a result?
Yeah, we call it the failure gap, right? Failure gap between agreement and alignment. And I think where it shows up probably most readily for people is when there's a big transformation effort underway. Have you done any big ERP transformations, for example, where you're going to implement a big system? Maybe 1 or 2.
Next up, Mr. Utkarsh Narang. So we catch up in Melbourne, Australia, back in my home country. Utkarsh is the founder and the CEO of Ignited Neurons, which I personally think is a really cool name, Ignited Neurons. Utkarsh is on a mission to help managers become future leaders for the world. He's a learning consultant, and an accomplished coach on the path to achieving IPC or IFC. I'll get it right in a moment. He's on the path to achieving ICF-PCC. Gosh, you think I am one of them and I can't even say it. He's looking to get accreditation anyway with the ICF at PCC level. And he's done over 1,000 hours of coaching, so I'm not sure what's holding him back. He's just got to complete the exam and make sure he's got his mentoring in place. So with a career spanning 17 years across healthcare, leadership, and e-learning, Utkarsh has led numerous cross-domain teams in both tech startups and large-scale client projects for Fortune 500 companies. His career started as a physiotherapist in 2007 before moving to film and editing in 2013, which is quite an interesting transition, and then to scaling a startup and leading sales in 2017, and now 2020, we find he's in a company where he's helping individuals and teams outperform themselves. Yeah, so Utkarsh likes the challenge, I can show you. He holds certifications as a happiness coach from Berkeley Institute of Wellbeing, as well as neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, as a coach. And I love the TED Talk that Utkarsh did not too long ago, and personally found the analogies and the metaphors really striking and appropriate for what he was talking about. So please have a listen to the segment of the conversation with Utkarsh and myself. Excellent. Looking at the company website, you have a few things on there that jumped out to me. You use the infinity symbol as part of your philosophy, I guess, about where your client sits within that infinity symbol. And would you like to explain that a little bit?
Absolutely, and you've done very thoughtful research. I really appreciate that, Wayne. So this idea came up, during a flight that I was taking, going from Melbourne to Delhi, where I was trying to figure out, like, what is it that represents human life in a very beautiful way. And the symbol of infinity came to mind because it joins at the center, but then it stretches to the left and the right. And how much it stretches is a choice that we all as human beings have. And so how we see this is that if we visualize, and I'm making it, if people are listening to this, I'm making an infinity sign right now. And at the center of that infinity sign, where the two paths intersect or collide, that's where you're sitting as a human being, as a team, as an organization. All right, so why interrupt a great flow? We'll keep the music coming. Not sure you would refer to my voice as music to your ears, but you get my meaning anyway, I'm sure. We've reached our final guest in this third group, and I'm morphing into an AI bot so that I can pop up in cities across Europe as well as in the UK in an effort to keep pace with our guest, Miss Juliette Denny. So Juliette is a learning engagement expert with almost 20 years of experience innovating in the learning tech space. She has unrivaled passion for learner engagement and offers unparalleled insights when it comes to learning and development best practice. She's considered a pioneer and an expert in applying gamification and social functionality to online learning. Her vibrant talks are packed full of statistics, case studies, and actionable takeaways, and are designed to ensure you come away with new insights, not little, but with new insights, as well as fresh perspectives. Juliette and I are somewhat of kindred spirits, I like to believe, with similar interests and passions related to people development and the way that we develop those people. It's a really insightful conversation around the future of learning, so please take the time and have a listen to this excerpt. You know, I was born in 1960, and it was very, very traditional in the sense of what was available. And I was trying to put my finger on it this morning when I was thinking about our conversation. It was probably around about the mid-80s when I was first ever introduced to a computer. And then
the learning side of it came maybe another 5 or so years after that, for me at least. And I'm wondering, what was your starting point in the use of technology? Did it only start when you got into the industry, or did you start using technology for learning prior to that?
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea what I was building. I mean, it's quite a hilarious story, really. So I started off growth engineering, and I was doing consultancy to the big banks for their venture startups. So my background prior to that was working in technology companies in a kind of sales and commercial role. And
Right.
so I was working for bank VC departments, essentially looking at how their startups were turning the money they'd been given to build products into revenue. So my job was to go in and basically look at their kind of nascent commercial operations and work out whether they were actually going to meet target or not, and whether they should get more funding or not. And so through that, I was like, right, we should be coding this up. We should be basically making this into a process.
And that means it's commercial break time again. So you've heard us introduce 2 of our 3 service functions: performance consulting, as well as executive development. Our 3rd area of focus is coaching. So our business name, Coaching for Companies, you'd have to figure we do coaching. So our 3rd function is on coaching, whether that's for talent, career, leadership. We do teams and group coaching as well. So we've really got you covered whenever anything around coaching comes up. The coaches here at C4C are seasoned professionals, handpicked by myself, I have to say, and they've run their own companies. They've worked as advisors, mentors to executives, and coached extensively through their global clients. We also ensure that we keep you current and experiencing the latest technology through our tripod coaching package. What do we mean by that? When we sign you up with us, you're given access to your own AI coach, as well as one of me or one of our coaching human people, so that you have both aspects covered. And then we combine that with our coaching management platform, where clients have direct access to their notes, their tools, their templates, their action plans, and so forth. It really does ensure that we keep you, the client, as our center of focus and attention. Interested? Then why not read more from our website, coachingforcompanies.com. By the way, that's coaching for the number 4. There's no space. It's all one continuous word, coaching number 4 companies, coachingforcompanies.com. And then connect with us when you're ready. You can make an inquiry, you can download information, you can book in a call. And with that, we're back now to the final trio to round out Q2 of 2024. All right. Can you start to sense the enormous value on offer here as we work our way through these amazing people? My hope is that the conversations bring you equal enjoyment as well as learning. And I know that my knowledge, as I say this every quarter, my knowledge continues to grow exponentially as a result of the opportunity that I have to have that one-on-one interaction, conversation, and opportunity to really listen and learn from these amazing leaders that come to us and you free of charge from around the world, with such diversity in their background, in their insights, their wisdom. So I'm really over the moon with what we're able to bring. All right, so on to our final 3 guests in order of appearance on the show: Mr. Daniel Hauge, Miss Ursula Eysin, and Mr. David Royance. What a way to finish. Our 10th guest, I'm visiting in central region of Denmark. And as I mentioned, Daniel. Daniel, as well as being an entrepreneur, is a #1 best-selling author with his book titled The Cure for Mediocrity: Create Wealth, Achieve Freedom, and Live the World-Class Lifestyle. Now, what's incredible about that? We've had many #1 bestsellers on this show. But what's really incredible, Daniel was 17 when he wrote this book. Now, that's only 7 years ago. He's only 24 today, and is currently considering, at least, revising and updating the version. So from dropping out of high school and being involved in crime and drug abuse to now being the founder of Passion for Achievement, Daniel leads an organization helping thousands of entrepreneurs around the world maximize performance in and out of business. He's obsessed with personal growth, entrepreneurship, and the relationship between the both. He believes everyone can build their version of a world-class life, and he aims to help as many entrepreneurs as possible achieve exactly that. And did I mention that at the time of this recording, Daniel was only 24? Wow, he's certainly done and been through so much for somebody so young. Please have a listen to our excerpt and see what you find useful and informative. I'm sure there will be a lot from our conversation. And I just realized that I forgot to bring up Daniel's image on the screen. So I'm going to leave it up there for a second while I ask you again, have a listen. Listen to episode 104, Building a Visionary Life, Aligning Personal Values with Business Success. I leverage a similar approach when we talk about our daily routines. So how do we standardize, systemize our routines? How do we make as much of it habitual so we don't even have to think about it, and it happens as a matter of just going through the routine? So all of those factors sort of feed into each other, I think. So it sounds like we're very much on the same page. So we're looking at the how-to more so than just what it is we want to achieve and why. So we're looking at how to do it and put it into practice, right? So yeah, very good.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So one of the things that I was reading about, not in relation to you, but probably relevant to us in general in what we're doing as entrepreneurs, is that there's a forecast or a projection that by the year 2027, some 50+% of the workforce will be either freelance, contract, or entrepreneurial based, which is a huge, huge progression from where it is now, but also where it was. If you were talking to some of those people that were gearing up to move in this direction, any sort of advice you would give them about what do they need to be thinking about? Where should their head be at the moment about thinking about becoming an entrepreneur as they look at the world today with this hugely rapid, shifting, technological-based world we live in? What should they be thinking about at the moment, do you think?
That's a great question. So first I'll go a little bit broad and general and then go a little bit more specific. So the broad and general is understand just the things we already kind of talked about. Understand who you are and what exactly you're trying to build. A lot of people will, kind of like we tell people not to marry the first person that touches their arm. A lot of people will marry the first business that they see a Facebook ad for. So, okay, I saw an ad for Forex trading and so that's what I'll do. Or I saw an ad for e-commerce, so that's what I'll do. I would really make the foundation, like for me, I was asking myself like 100 questions per day for years when I started in the entrepreneurship. I was like, why is this important to me? Why is this not important to me? How would I do this instead? And why did that ad feel bad for me? Well, this ad I was very impressed by, and just really getting that clarity. So that's the first thing. And then understanding that slow can be faster than fast.
And our next guest, our penultimate guest this quarter, who happens to be stationed in one of my very favorite cities in Europe, in Vienna, Austria. Now, that's not Australia in my Australian accent, that's Austria, just on the border, if you like, or forming a border with Germany. And if I knew my geography better, I'd probably be able to tell you other borders, but at least you know where I am. Yeah, so Vienna, home of Sigmund Freud, Vienna Schnitzel, as well as the Danube, right? But I'm not there for any of that today. Today we're chatting with, or at the time of this episode being released, I was there to chat with Miss Ursula Eysin. Miss Eysin used to work as a production manager, a moderator, and a presenter in theatre, opera, film, and TV before becoming passionate about technology and becoming a consultant and communication professional, getting tongue twisted, which is very interesting given that Ursula is a sinologist, which means she's fluent in not only Mandarin, but several other languages. Maybe she can help me untwist my tongue. Ursula's broad knowledge and experience enabled her to not only develop new business ideas, but to also create the right story, vision, and action steps around it. She's an expert in strategic future processes, scenario thinking, the creation of new business models, innovation, technology transfer, business development, and strategic communication. I truly enjoy all of our conversations, but this particular one resonated very closely with my own areas of expertise as well as interest. So please have a listen to this short portion of that podcast conversation. So my strategizing and futurizing really lends itself to projecting forward, and I can see a lot of negative scenarios as well as positive ones. I'm wondering your thoughts around, do you find people like me that also tend to fall into this trap, catastrophizing or doomsday analyzing with the people that you deal with that look at futurized scenarios?
The good thing for us is the bad scenarios for us are the good thing. I explain. Once even we did future scenarios for the Austrian Ministry of Technology for the topic next generation internet. And we always developed 4 different scenarios, and 3 of them were actually quite negative because for technology, you always have to think about a lot of problems before you use it. And actually the guys from the ministry came from me and said, Ursula, why are so many of our scenarios so bad? I said, that's good, that's good. Because let me explain, when we do not stop with the scenarios. In the human nature is like that, human psychology, we really need the negative to know, or the unwanted to know what we do want instead. And that's the next step. And also when to these scenario processes, for example, with startups. Let's say they have a very bad scenario. In this scenario, their clients don't buy what they have. They don't have the right cooperation partners, not the right supply chain, etc. They will know immediately what to do. When you just point at the very best scenario, you know, their utopia, everything is fine, you have great investor, etc., etc., then ask them, how do you get into this scenario? Nobody knows how to get there. And we had the same phenomenon with these technology scenarios. We have very good specialists there. Some of them are quantum physicists who worked for NASA, for example.
I know these recaps are short and sweet, but they're only meant to serve as memory joggers that help you trigger those forgotten conversations. So without further ado, let's recap on our very last guest for Q2. And in this case, I'm visiting Beach. This was only last week, by the way, in the county of Hampshire, in southeast England, no less, to connect with our guest, Mr. David Royance. So who is David? Well, he's an Amazon best-selling author. He's an award-winning coach, as well as CEO of 2 businesses, and he provides business support to several other companies. He's Europe's #1 smasher of the glass ceiling. At least that's what he likes to call himself. His client base is typically women in senior roles in large corporates who find that the strategies they've used to get the role that they now are in is not helping them get further up the management chain. And what they get from David are the secrets of how their voice as well as their body resonates so that they can show up and shine. In December 2020, David was recognized as one of the top 40 influencers in the world by the Women in Banking and Finance group for his assistance in helping women to get promoted into the boardroom. His career, very interestingly, began as a professional actor, as well as a theatre director, working alongside, now listen to this, working alongside some notables such as 007. I'm not going to tell you which one, you'll have to listen to the episode. Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the character Sergeant Nicholas Brody of Homeland. Now, when you get to know who those people are, you'll know just how impressive that is and how starstruck I was in talking to David and listening to some of his experience. See, in this conversation, you'll see that I even try my hand at reciting a few lines from Romeo and Juliet. What can I say other than please have a listen? So I wonder if you wouldn't mind just speaking to the company, speak to Shine International. What is it that you do within that organization? How do you help the people you help?
I help people use words to make a huge profit. Now, that might be employees in an organization. I was named one of the top 40 for 40. That was the hashtag that women in banking and finance used. In 2020, they gave me an award naming me one of the top 40 influencers for women in the banking space globally. So where I have a very good track record is helping women in the banking and finance space get themselves promoted, and adding, on average, with the promotions that these women have achieved, 30 to 40% extra in the income yearly. That's what we're aiming at when I'm working with these employees. Now, it's not exclusively women, but it is predominantly women who come to me and say, David, it's too hard. I'm stuck. I can't sleep because of all the reorganizations, and I'm watching banks let 12,000 people go, and they're, moving offices, and I'm worried that I'm going to be one of the people they choose, or, I don't have visibility in the right space. So I'm very concerned. And we go, okay, let's change something about that. So we work on lifting their presence and their visibility and the perception of credibility around them through 1, posture, 2, voice, 3, energy, so that we've got their impact sorted. And then once we've got the impact sorted, then we start working on the influence. So I say impact is about what happens when you're in the room, and influence is about what happens when you're outside of it.
All right. Well, this is episode 107. We're at the end of the month of June. Now, next month, we kick off our 3rd challenge for the year. In fact, we call it the Ultimate 2-Day Challenge. And the topic is learn 2 key phases in achieving facilitation mastery. Now, it's in July, as well as all the other things we do, of course, right? So this is just one of the other ET project items. In August, we host our 3rd virtual mastermind. So you'll remember the mastermind, different to the masterclass. The mastermind sits under the umbrella of our ET Academy. And it's a 4 by 2-hour sessions that immerse you. And we continue with the storyline coming out of the challenge around facilitation mastery. So we take a deeper look in those 8 hours at the remaining 3 phases that enable you to reach facilitation mastery. If you have a desire to really elevate your ability as a facilitator, then July and August are curated specifically for you. So please take the opportunity, don't miss them. And then, of course, in the 3rd month of Q3, back in September, we're doing our 3rd masterclass. We're back into the ET project of 2024. The topic title is How Strategic is Your Thinking and Decision Making, which is another hugely significant leadership and business skill set that we dive into. By the way, we're also commencing a new bi-monthly free event in July, actually 8 p.m. live on the 17th of July to be precise. And we're launching our C4C, our Coaching for Companies Thought Leaders First Forum. Yeah? We have a wonderful panel of experts that are going to join us and talk with us and help us explore the topic of addressing workplace trauma. So if you thought we haven't been busy enough, then come and check out this new group. You may also like to join the group and become a C4C thought leader yourself. I'd love to see you there. We're going to be live 8 p.m, 17th of July. And as usual, there's a whole host of goodies you get once you register for that event. All right, so now with that, Team ET, we've reached the end of this recap. Hopefully this short review has triggered some fond memories, as well as flagged an episode or two that you may wish to go back for a second listen. As we move now into the start of quarter 3 in 2024, we have another exciting 12 guests waiting to join us as we share their stories, their insights, and their wisdom. Hoping we see you again next week when we get started with a really high-level, high-profile psychologist, renowned psychologist, Dr. Nikisha Hammond, based over in, I believe it's in Tampa, Florida. I could be wrong. She works with top executives and leaders, helping them transform. We'll hear a lot more about what she's doing. By the way, Dr. Hammond is going to be one of our panel experts that joins us on the 17th of July as well to talk about addressing workplace trauma. Hope you can join us. Until then, enjoy the end of the quarter celebrations. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye for now.
So what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button below and click on the bell icon so I can pop up in your feed occasionally with a great tip for your ultimate growth.